Good morning, everyone. Welcome to BBQ Elevated. My name is Scott, and today we're going to be doing some pulled pork. We're going to show you how to make a really awesome, turn this pork butt here into a really great and awesome piece of meat that you can enjoy that's nice and soft and tender. And we're going to show how some of the things that I do to make it really good. Also, maybe some of the adjustments that I make for the elevation that I'm at. I'm at around 4,400 feet in elevation. It's about 20 degrees outside today, so it's good and cold, but we're going to go ahead and do this and show you some of the things that I've done to have success in my barbecue and making it taste really well and making something that people enjoy. So I hope you guys enjoy as well. So here we have it. Here's our pork butt. You know, for me, I typically try to get one that is this square. It's pretty thick, pretty consistent. I try to get it so that there's just fat all the way across the top. This one has a little bit right here. There's missing the fat, but for what was available at the store, when I bought this yesterday, this was the best one that I could find. I always get bone in. I feel like the bone adds flavor, but it's also a good way at the end to test to make sure that your pork is done to perfection when you can pull the bone out with your feet, with your hands. So we'll go ahead and just cut this thing open. So the knife I'm using today is not the sharpest, but not a lot of trimming you got to do with pulled pork. Really, it's just a matter of getting it out of the package, making sure there's no loose ends on it, and seasoning it and then getting it on. Oh, also, always wear gloves, especially when you're cutting it open. So it's good to be as sanitary as we can. So here it is. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Have like a few little loose pieces here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead, now that I've got this opened up, take this glove off. Got a free hand, it's a clean hand. Grab the knife so we don't get it dirty. Just kind of cut off some of these loose pieces that are just going to burn up in the process of making this anyway, so may as well get it off now and get rid of the piece of meat that I was probably not going to taste all that great anyways. So now we got this thing ready, we're ready to season it. So for me, I like to just use plain old regular yellow mustard as my something that I put on to help it be sticky and tacky. Doesn't impact the flavor at all. Doesn't take a lot of it. Just rub it on there nice and smooth and lightly coat it. It goes a long way to help keep the rub on. For my rub for pulled pork, I like to just use half salt and half pepper. I mix them together. I like to use the bigger grains just because the more texture you create on the meat, the bigger grains you can create, the more smoke you're going to attract. Smoke is attracted to texture in my experience, and so I use kosher salt and then what's called restaurant grind pepper. You can find them at Costco or Sam's Club, whichever one you prefer. I typically buy them in bulk just because you use a lot of it and it's cheaper. But anyways, so with one of the great things about pulled pork is it's impossible to over season it. So because there's no natural flavor when it comes to a pork butt, you know, get as much salt and pepper on there as you can. No reason not to. So we're going to go ahead and just season this thing all the way around. Go. Get all the corners, all the sides. Get this thing completely covered. I kind of use my hand to put it down onto. You also may notice I made a mistake and I grabbed the lid with my glove hand, so definitely need to clean this before I use it again. Anyways, So there we go. Now we got the bottom side. Now we'll just try to grab it, flip it over. A little bit more mustard on top. And again, going to season super heavily. Just spread this mustard out a little bit. Get just a nice, light, even coating around it. And then, you know, and especially on the top, because the top side, you know, when you go to shred this thing, you want all of these seasonings to fall down into the meat. When you go to pull it apart with, I use tongs, but even if you just use a knife and a fork or whatever you want to use, you want to make it so that when you do it and you push down into this thing, all the seasoning is going to fall down into it from the part that we're creating. And that's really our goal here, is to get some of this seasoning, some of this salt and pepper goodness into the actual meat when we go to serve it. So, and that's it. Now we're just going to wait for our cooker to come up to temperature. For me, you know, I like to try to get it to typically start around 265 to 275 on my temperature gauge. Today I might start a little bit warmer just because it is colder outside. It's going to take longer to get this thing going and get it heated up, but that's what we're shooting for. No reason you can't cook a little bit hotter and get it done a little bit faster, but also, you know, at elevation, food does take longer to cook. So if you have to start at that low temperature, you're going to be in for a very, very, very long cook. Whereas for me, I prefer to just kind of get things going faster. And you know, if you have a pellet grill, you can start at 225. A lot of people do, but I've gone as high as 250, 255, and it works just fine. I just find, for me, keeping the pork butt out of the middle. If you have your burnt pot in the middle of the cooker, put it off to the side so it's not over that direct heat. For me, I use an offset cooker. It's just a stick cooker, so I like to mine, and with one like mine, you have consistent air flowing through. I'm gonna go ahead and just season that up a little bit more. I saw a spot that wasn't quite covered. But anyways, with an offset cooker like mine, the stick cooker, you know, the air is constantly flowing through it, so I find it has to be even a little bit hotter because that air is just constantly moving, all that cold air, and you've really got to have some temperature to keep it cooking and keep it going quickly. So, but anyways, next step is we'll be checking on this thing in a few hours after it's been cooking for a little bit. So right now it's kind of sitting and waiting for an hour or so for the cooker to come up to temp.